reply. Okay. Can I hear myself now? People, please let me know. Can you hear me or not? I hope you can. I don't know yet. Yeah. But you can hear me now, right? Yeah. Okay. Can you say something ludicrous? See if this works. Ludicrous? Nope, they can't, because for some stupid reason that's not being broadcasted. I'm sorry, ludicrous. But thank you for coming in here to check. Okay, finally the audience can hear me talk. I'm sorry, people. Somehow all the settings in my box have changed again, and I have no idea how or why. I'm not quite sure if you guys can hear me nicely or if you can hear me with an echo. Please let me know. And you want me to be a little bit louder? Now that's easily done. I said, hopefully. Come on, you bloody machine. It's not that easily done, I have to admit. Okay. Open sound mixer. Master volume. Okay. Let's see if this will help. Can you guys hear me better now? It's a bitch, I know, but it seems that this isn't really working either. Nope. And how is it now? Is it better now? I don't know. This is quite annoying. Yeah, I'm sorry, good people, but last week we had a Windows update and I completely forgot that whenever Windows does an update, it fucks up the settings. And you like me better when I was quiet? I'm sorry, I can't broadcast a ludicrous. I can hear him over Discord, but I can't broadcast him because I have to reset my settings for voice meter. I just found out, so it's going to be too late to do that now. So I'm going to have to solo this. I'm sorry for that. I wouldn't have minded people joining me to talk with us, but I'm sorry. This is my bad, and I kind of keep forgetting that whenever Windows has an update, my settings are destroyed, basically. Anyway, we've got a bunch of people in the chat now. Actually, people are leaving already, which I can't blame them for because we've been here for 10 minutes and nothing has been spoken about. But you can see the quote of Carl Jung on the screen. We can never be sure that a new idea will not seize either upon ourselves or upon our neighbors. We know from modern as well as from ancient history that such ideas are often strange, indeed so bizarre that they will fly in the face of reason. The fascination, which is almost invariable connected with ideas of this sort, produces a fanatical obsession, with the results that all dissenters, no matter how well-meaning or reasonable they are, get burnt alive or are disposed of in masses. Now, why did I start off with this quote that I have now on the screen? Because Carl Jung here basically describes what mass psychosis is. And the thing about mass psychosis is that people do not realize they suffer from it. They will actually deny this from happening. This isn't unlike, how do you call this? This isn't unlike the ideas that were pushed by Yuri, what was it, Brezhnev? I forgot his name. Bezmenov, sorry. This isn't unlike Bezmenov, but the thing is that you will have people who will deny reality because of the reality they've been told to believe in. Now this is something we've seen during the late Middle Ages when people started burning witches. Can I mute the stream at my end? Yes, I can, but it is muted at my end. I don't know why there is an echo. Let me see if I can change the settings even better. Maybe it's because I have two microphones. I don't know. Because it is muted on this end. There should only be one sound. I am sincerely sorry for this. It's quite annoying. Okay, so this is working. That means that I need to turn off this one. Okay, come here, you bloody piece of crap. No. Yeah, I'm sincerely apologizing for the mess, because this is quite annoying to me as well. Okay, audio meters, voice meter input. So what if I turn you off again? Okay. Will this be any better? No, it's not. See, the thing is, I'm not quite sure why it's messed up, but I am sure that it is. Let's see if this will make it better. If I do it like that. Nope, there's still a lot of noise coming back and forth. Let me see if this makes it work. Yep, it makes it work. So I know it's the voice meter thing that is fucking me up. Okay, let's try something else. Is this helping? Nope. Is this helping? Nope. Is this helping? No. I don't know why there is an echo. This is really bad. I really hate it when every single time they have an update, it's... Okay. Can you guys still hear the echo? I'm not quite sure if you can. I mean, I hope you can still hear me talk. I have no idea. So... oh man, oh man, oh man. This is such a bastard. Just go on with okay, you know what? I'm going to go on with the stream. So the thing with mass psychosis, and there is no more echo. That's good. I can hope you can still hear me. I'm a little bit loud, I can tell, so taking down my volume a bit. See if this is any better. Seems that way. There wasn't an echo, but the sound wasn't good. Okay. Now it should be good. If not, well, fuck it. So, what was I going to talk about? Bloody hell. I am sorry, the first quarter of an hour of this stream has been crap. Mea culpa. Now, what is mass psychosis? Well, according to Carl Jung, mass psychosis may be considered the biggest threat to humanity. Funny enough, Yuri Bezmenov called it the biggest threat to a society. Now, he didn't say mass psychosis. He called it, what were the words he used? No, I can't remember it now. Bloody hell. Subversion. He called it subversion from a society. Now, is there a difference between mass psychosis and subversion? Well, obviously, yes, there is. The biggest difference being that subversion is a way to make people think differently than reality, where mass psychosis is, well, somewhat the same, but with another background. Mass psychosis isn't created by the idea of, how do you call it, political subversion of a society. Mass psychosis may be the result of that, but the cause is not the important thing. The important thing is people being unable to see that this is happening. Now, it seems almost the same. Don't get me wrong. Subversion somewhat resembles mass psychosis. So what's the big difference? Well, if you look at subversion, it is done by someone who wants to have a certain effect on a certain society. This is not true for mass psychosis. Or rather, it is unlikely that this is the case. It's true that all cases of mass psychosis, there was a goal at the start of it all. For example, if we look at the witch burnings in the end of the Middle Ages and in the 1700 in America, there was a religious aspect to it all. But where it started with, okay, you know what, we want to be pure, people started seeing things that were simply not there. It's not even that people started believing things that might be wrong. No, they actually perceived things that were impossible. The whole idea of witchcraft became so real to a lot of people that they could actually see the result of witchcraft. Now, this is not weird because our perceptual set is triggering us to see certain things, and as humans we like to identify patterns. This is why we look at the clouds and we can see a duck, a sheep, a face of a person, because we want to identify patterns. Now imagine if your mind has been corrupted to such an extent that you want to believe that something is true, even though all proof shows you that it isn't. But there is so many small things that you may interpret this to be true. Then, this is something indeed subversion can cause, but this is also something that will cause a mass psychosis. And if we look at the witch burnings, there were areas in Europe and America where they killed so many women, mostly women during the witch burning, a few men were burned as well, but mostly women, that there were villages where there were nearly no women left. These women got killed because of mass psychosis. Now, one of the more interesting mass psychosis, and I wanted to show it to you guys, but I can't, happened, if I'm not mistaken, in Prague, where people started to dance, and they thought dancing was so important that they more or less couldn't stop themselves. People, according to the story, could actually die from, how do you call it, well, overexerting themselves. And Haida Dimitri. Now, if we look at witch burnings, which is quite clear a doctrine from religion that caused this mass psychosis, well, obviously it's vastly different than whatever caused people to start dancing, which, in all fairness, you are correct. Are these the only ways that mass psychosis can start? Is this the only way that they are recognizable as mass psychosis? Well, the answer to that question is no, because in the 20th century we've seen lots of mass psychosis which were caused by authoritarianisms. For example, the Soviet Union or Cuba, or if we look in America now. Now that last one might be a little bit different, but it is still a mass psychosis. So let me first explain to you how the mass psychosis of other countries like Cuba or Spain or Russia were mass psychosis. Because people perceived something which to them became so real that they needed to defend it. If we look at Russia, people would actually turn on each other. Children would turn on their parents, betray them, because the system was so real to them that doing this was a good thing. The mass psychosis went so far that people started believing that the state was a beneficial factor in their life, so much so that everything else had to suffer because of it. You would not go in favor of friends if those friends were against the state. The state was the utmost good. This is something we saw in Russia. This is something we saw in China with Mao's Great Leap Forward. People would actually blame the people that were starving for starving. How could you starve if the state did so much great things? There is something wrong with you. You must have been sick. Or in most religions, they would have said the demons would have come to take you because it's your fault. If we look at Holodomor, in the Ukraine, about, what was it, 20 million, 40 million, I think it's 40, I'm going to say 40. 40 million people died because of what the state did, because of Lysenkoism, because of communism. But for the longest time, the people dying were put aside as, well, there's something wrong with them. Because obviously what we're doing is good. This is a form of mass psychosis. We still have politicians today that think that what happened in the Soviet Union, well, I mean, it wasn't real communism, but it was good enough for people to try. And it only failed because of what the Americans did or what Europe did, not because they basically starved their own people. Now, Holodomor is a terrible example of that in Russia. The Great Leap Forward in China is a terrible example of that. But there are more examples of them absolutely turning against their citizens. The state basically turning against their citizens. Is this something unique for communism? No, it is not. But it's far more likely to happen under communism. But it happens under right-wing authoritarian too, doesn't it? I would love to say that it does, especially if that right-wing authoritarianism is based on religion. Look at, for example, what's happening in Saudi Arabia or in Yemen, for that case. This can be considered right-wing authoritarianism, and with that, their own psychosis. Now you have people believing that killing other people is completely justified. Is this a form of psychosis? Well, it is, because you have to define something as good or evil, define yourself as beyond that, and then take away the rights or possibilities of other people. But if that would happen to you, you would cry foul. It's an injustice. But of course it's an injustice, but it's not an injustice if you can other the person who you're doing it to. So it's more than just you not realizing that you're being, how do you call it, unfair towards people, but it's logical that you do this because they are what's wrong with the world. All one's neighbors are in the grip of some uncontrolled and uncontrollable fear. In a lunatic asylum, it's well known that patients are far more dangerous when suffering from fear than when they are moved by rage or hatred. People now are afraid that their neighbor can cause them to catch a disease. Now obviously that disease is not as deadly as people claim. We knew this a year ago. We knew this weeks after this disease became prevalent in the Western world. Funny enough, the ways that we try to combat this disease had been so detrimental to our health that, yeah, a lot of people died. And to keep the fear going, a lot of people that died were all of a sudden sacrificed through the altar of reality. They died of this new disease, not because of all the other things that gone wrong. But you have to be afraid. So they keep pushing the fear idea on you. And what happens when people are afraid? They demand safety. They will fight everyone who will not take that fear serious. This is indeed a mass psychosis. Reality doesn't happen to be allowed to exist. I've actually spoken to people, especially when we're talking about the disease I'm not going to mention by name, that we talked about the numbers of people dying. And they will say, well, no, that's not true. Well, according to the CDC in America and the RIVM in the Netherlands, this is true. I can show you the numbers. Well, if you show me the numbers, I will not believe them. And I can understand that it would be something they don't want to believe, because it would fight their new narrative, their new world image, their psychosis. This is hard to understand, because why would you want to believe something that is provably false? This is, for example, where terms like fake news come in. Well, what you say is fake news. Maybe it is. News has a tendency of being fake anyway. The problem with being news is that people want to be the first to say it, and therefore they often miss the whole story, but they push a narrative. Well, if we take that into account, and we know that this is happening, then why are we pushing others to fear? In the UK, they called it Project Fear, when people try to make people see that leaving the European Union would have been a good thing for the UK. No, if you believe that's a good thing, you're the enemy, because you have to believe that it's a terrible thing. Hence, Project Fear. This is why so many political and news items are based on fear. The more you have a society being afraid, the more willing they are to accept atrocious acts upon their nation and upon their neighbors. This is how Carl Jung described it, not so much what I just discussed, but the end result in The Symbolic Life. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious that it's not famine, nor earthquake, nor microbes, nor cancer, but man himself who is man's greatest danger. For the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. And this is what we've seen with the coup in the last 1.5 years. This is how deep the psychosis goes. Now, last year, around this time, we saw that the numbers of people getting sick, the numbers of people dying, were slightly going down. We see the same this year. But this year, every country will tell you, look at how good we're acting, because we have already vaccinated so many people, and because we vaccinated so many people, there are less people getting sick. Well, that's all good and well, but how did this then happen in the years before this? Well, not the years, not plural, last year, singular. Because in all fairness, the numbers were dwindling during May in that time as well. Now, I should have the numbers somewhere, but I'm pretty crap with getting this thing going. I am sorry. I had everything ready. And then my sound was creating a little bit of a problem. But the thing is, we have so many examples of people believing one thing, even though reality shows something else, and somehow you're not allowed to recognize this. You're not even allowed to say this. How many people have been banned or told that whatever they believe is wrong and is indeed heinous? How dare you spread a false narrative? But that's weird, because even if you tell the numbers given by official government groups, like the CDC in America, RIVM in the Netherlands, then somehow you are misinterpreting the numbers. But even if you take the numbers as is, even the World Health Organization has now said, well, yeah, it's a very deadly disease. Yeah, not really that much a very deadly disease, but there have been a lot of people dying from it, and it doesn't really get much worse than about an IFR, which means infection fatality rate of 0.15%, which is somewhat the same as a flu, which people have been saying from day one. But you're not allowed to say that because this is way worse. But how? It's not more infectious, it's not more deadly, and somehow not treating people in hospitals, for example, for corona, but also for other things like, how do you call it, heart disease, cancers. Yeah, we allow this because we're being told to be afraid. And once people are willing to be afraid, once people are stuck in that bubble, they will not get free from that bubble. They will not allow themselves to survive what they fear. And this is mass psychosis. Now, I'm not sure if there's still anyone out there, because I haven't seen anyone type anything for a while, but I have been talking. I'm pretty sure someone must have a quest. If not, then hi there, Paolo, by the way. See, there's a difference of opinion when people talk about mass psychosis. One of the famous stories, obviously, being of the radio show War of the Worlds. People were talking about how a lot of people committed suicide during War of the Worlds. Now, this is a nice story. It's an interesting story. I must have told it myself once or twice, but that's not true. Now, that's an interesting question, Dimitros. Is this mass psychosis spontaneous or deliberate? And who or what will we have to confront in order to be effective against it? The thing is, I'm not sure if it's deliberate. I'm not sure if the people who may have tried to move societies in certain ways actually thought that this is what was going to be the result. They might be happy about it because they have more control now than they ever had, but I'm not sure if it was deliberate. And what can we do against it? Well, we have to remind people of the reality of things. How to end the COOF psychosis, Michael? Yes. Well, as I said, we have to remind people of the reality of things. We have to say to our governments, we're not going to wear those face diapers because they're a danger to all of us. And people have to stand up. The ones that know have to stand up, and the ones that don't know have to stand up as well. Listen, whenever people tell you you have to wear a mask, feel free to tell them no. It's a health risk. It's a danger. Look at what we're doing to each other. The King of the Netherlands said early last year, when the corona bullshit was starting, we mustn't allow the world to take away our normal and make a new normal. Now the new normal is people wear masks, social distance, don't give each other a hand. I was in the shops today and I was amazed about some of the people. I mean, you can't see most of the face because of the mask they wear. But I'm pretty sure that 2 years ago, if you would go into a shop whilst hiding half of your face, people would not have accepted that. I mean, it might cause fear as well, don't get me wrong. But how weird is it that if you would go into a shop, a bank, whatever, and people couldn't see your face, this wasn't a problem. You would be thrown out. You would be arrested. But now, it's the new norm. It's the new normal. And there is something seriously scary of that. What is it that makes people want to say, well, you have your opinion and you're wrong? Is mass psychosis a fact of human nature? In a way it is. I mean, we have had it before. It's something we can protect ourselves against whilst being vigilant, whilst reminding ourselves that, wait a second, this is a problem. But there is also the risk of people trying to push people into a mass psychosis. I have no reason to believe that this is an orchestrated attack, but I can't say it's not. It's the problem with our current society. We don't know what's going on. We don't know why certain things are happening. But we do know what the results are. And indeed, ludicrous. Oh, sorry, need to sneeze. Indeed, ludicrous. There are people who now become more interesting because, hey, they wear a mask so people can't see how hideous they are. That's not nice of me to say, but it's still true. And Michael, you're right. I mean, you have to wear a face diaper, but you're not allowed to keep on your helmet. I still know people that have, how do you call them, gas masks, which you're not allowed to wear, but you are allowed to wear a piece of cloth. Now, don't get me wrong, a gas mask will also do absolutely nothing against a virus. But it will be slightly more effective than an M95 medical mask. And you're not even allowed to wear those, because those are supposed to stay, how do you call it, for the professionals. Is it in the interest of our governments to guard against mass psychosis? I would say it absolutely is. Because once a society gets gripped by mass psychosis, polarization will inevitably be part of the problem. Productivity will go down, society will crumble, people will stop believing, trusting, or even care for each other. This is a very dangerous thing, don't get me wrong, it's a huge problem. But at the same time, people pretend that this is new. Oh, sorry, sniff, sniff. And why do they keep pushing the idea that this is new? Because it's easier for them to believe that this is new. I'm not sure if all the politicians like the mass psychosis, Dimitri. But there are politicians who are absolutely in favor of pushing fear on their society. Once again, look at Project Fear when the Brexit happened. Look at Project Fear in America based on Trump. Trump must be the worst person in the world because so many politicians spoke out against him. But then again, look at what Maxime Waters did not too long ago in the Chauvin court cases. she started calling out for more violence on the streets, in their houses, in the places where people live, work, and come together. Now, some of the people in America will speak out how terrible it is that Maxine Waters did this. But there are lots of Americans who are in favor of this happening, because they live in a psychosis that they are the just ones and the police are the enemy. Should we take the issues through the policy channels? Now, that's a question I don't know how to answer, because I'm not really sure what you mean, Dimitri. Sorry. While coal filter and the knowledge on how to wear them and an isolated room to take it off, a gas mask would actually work while not leaving the isolated room without the mask. No, actually it won't. Coal filters are not enough to block viruses. Unfortunately, I did do some research in it because I was thinking it would be fun to do that. But yeah, no. You want to have a way to deal with viruses. You need an air source that cannot be contaminated. And coal filters can't stop the contamination. Now, you could stop contamination by having filters that are under constant UV light. I think you need UVC. That would kill the virus. But yeah, other than that, there is no real way of stopping a virus, because it's too small. Viruses survive a lot. They don't survive certain frequencies of light. But yeah, if we look at the death numbers, the death numbers, they're terrible. Oh, they're terrible. But they've been going down since, if we look in the Netherlands, we had a spike, more or less a spike, in around New Year's Day. And since then it's already going down. It's been going down since January, end January, February. And it keeps going down further and further and further. But if we look at the numbers now, if we compare those numbers to the numbers in May 2020, they're roughly the same. But you're not allowed to recognize this. You're not allowed to say this, because it goes against the doctrine and it goes against their Project Fear. It goes against the psychosis people are in. It's difficult to make a political demand to safeguard against it, Dimitris. It is a general issue. We don't have to make it a general issue. It is. But it's difficult to protect against mass psychosis, because most people don't even realize they're in it. Now, the situation as it is, I do recognize it. But at the same time, there could have been mass psychosis where I didn't recognize it. So I'm not even trying to pretend that I'm so much better than everyone else. The concept is of being skeptic, so we keep asking questions. But at the same time, this is also the downside of it all. Because sometimes we keep asking questions and this upsets people. Hi there, Chris Avery. Here in New Zealand, we have a mass psychosis. Oh yeah, New Zealand, Australia, but there isn't a Western country where we do not have a mass psychosis when it comes to cough too. That's not really true. Sweden seems to do pretty well. And by the way, Dimitri, you've been here quite a long time. Do you want to also be allowed to moderate stuff? Fuck it, there you go, what do I care? I'm sorry for all the new people that haven't been here a while, but if you come more and more often, I'll just give you moderator powers, because sometimes when you ask questions or when you respond to something, YouTube might block it. And if you're a moderator, you can fix that yourself. By the way, if I give you moderator powers, please don't abuse it. I hate to have to take it away again. But yeah, no, I mean, in New Zealand, we have mass psychosis. In Australia, we have it. In the Netherlands, we have it. In Germany, we have it. It's amazing how
terrible it is. And that we can't stop the spread of certain viruses. We should never try to. In all fairness, it's a virus. Those bloody things are designed to survive. Well, they're not designed, they're evolved to survive. And usually, every so often, one of the versions becomes really deadly. And then it becomes less deadly because if the host of a virus dies, the chance of the virus prolongating its spread also gets less. Again, this is pure evolution. And those 20 states haven't gotten rid of the mass psychosis yet, Michael Keller. The politicians are trying to, but in those states there are still a lot of people who believe that they are doing the right thing if they wear masks, that they're doing the right thing if they keep distance of each other. They still point fingers at people who will not do that. Now, they will do less so because those states don't have a constant push from the government, but they will still have a constant push from the media. In the Netherlands, we constantly get told how terrible this whole idea of COVID is. So much so that, it's terrible. Well, it's kind of funny that you pick up HIV. In the 80s and 90s, HIV was also considered a pandemic. But then again, it's really not. I mean, you couldn't accidentally pick up HIV, which is strange. But yeah, with COVID, you can accidentally pick up COVID. Funny enough, all the things we've done so far to stop the spread have not worked. But the same is true for witchcraft in the late Middle Ages. The reality was that people that were convicted to be witches could never prove their innocence. Because you can't prove you're not a witch to people who believe that you are. Because you can't prove witchcraft. Maybe we should have a site like HTTP Cult Research on mass psychosis. Now, there have been studies done on mass psychosis. I'll look into the website you shared because I am interested. But there have been studies done in mass psychosis. But a lot of the results of these studies always get, how do you call it? Downplayed? Because we know what happens when you give people false information, when you constantly lie to them, especially if you do it in such a way that you pit two groups against each other. We know what happens. We're doing it nonetheless, or rather, it's not we that are doing it, but it's being done nonetheless. And this is a dangerous thing. Now, what can we do to help people stop being scared? We can point out that, okay, you know what? Yes, a lot of people died, but way more people survived. Now, corona, in this case, is a terrible disease, and people 80 and over have a 10% chance of dying, which means 90% of these people survive. During the witchcraft trials, witches were a terrible thing, except for that they weren't real. So what's the problem? If we look at communism, people need to realize that the state will not fix their problems, which is something that is true in America now as well. It's not just corona that is the mass psychosis. How many people in America are looking to daddy government to fix the problems? Problems that daddy government themselves have caused. The same is true in the Netherlands. The same is true in Europe when we look at the European Union. More money being thrown at problems that aren't really there. But the money isn't thrown to the solutions. For example, in the Netherlands, we are now spending nearly €1 billion to create a test society. If you want to go to a party, well, you have to get tested right in front of it. You want to go to a soccer match, football match, well, there's testing at the door. If you're clean, you can go in. If not, well, too bad. For 9.5 million euro, so nearly $1 billion. But they still haven't expanded our healthcare system. Look at a photo of Alice Schwarzer and tell me there are no witches. Well, there may be bitches, but there aren't witches. And I have no idea who Alice Schwarzer is. I guess I have to look that one up then. Let's do that. Alice Blacker. What a strange name that is, though. Who is Alice Schwarzer? Alice Schwarzer is a German feminist. Well, yeah, there are bitches, that's true. Ah, yes, she does have... I understand why you would say that, Michael Keller. I should share it with the good people in the crowd. But she does have a Baba Yaga face. And for the people of you who do not know who Baba Yaga is, she is well, it's an ancient folklore story of the witch in the woods. It's kind of the story where it's believed that the Hansel and Gretel story is based on a Baba Yaga story, which is a witch in the woods living in a house with legs, coming around to eat children. I don't think she eats children. Isn't it John Wick? How do you mean, isn't it John Wick? I have no idea what you mean. Somehow I have a difficulty to accept that we're almost at the same level as the Dark Ages. When it comes to this, funny enough, we are. We humans haven't learned a single thing. There's a reason why so many people became militant atheists. Because we started, and I was a militant atheist as well, so I'm to blame for this just as much. We realized that, okay, religion, whether you believe it or not, has been used to control the masses. Therefore, if you believe something, you must be dangerous, stupid, part of a mass psychosis, call it what you will. But at the same time, when I was a militant atheist, I have to admit I was doing the same thing that I blamed these people for. Okay, they believed something based on what I considered nonsense, and I could tell them how it was nonsense because of their own book, whichever religion you wanted, but I missed the point. I started attacking people because of their religion. I shouldn't have. I should attack people on their actions. But at the same time, being a militant atheist, I should have been made to think about what I said as well. I should have been ridiculed as well. Now, there were Christians that spoke out against atheists, don't get me wrong, but they were mocked and ridiculed themselves. The reality of things is you have to find a common ground. You have to find a stable center to talk with each other. Being an atheist, I've been able to talk with a lot of religious people. But as a militant atheist, I wasn't able to do that. Because my idea was so powerful in my mind, to say, that I could not hear what other people would say. In effect, I myself was not open to challenging my own psychosis. As humans, we haven't progressed that much. Our culture, our society is something that we as humans create, but at the same time, and I'm going to remove Baba Yaga, and I I have to admit that I believe you were right, Ludicrous, but I can't remember that. The thing is, our societies, our people, we have learned a lot of things, but we still haven't learned to challenge our beliefs, our highly valued morals. And because we haven't, if someone pushes something, all of a sudden, we either fight back or we stop caring. The thing is, I don't know what the best way around it is. But we have to do something. We cannot allow ourselves to be stuck in mass psychosis. These psychoses are very often caused by the media and by politicians. But I'm not sure if they cause it on purpose. And it should become a very important issue. Funny enough, this is in a way something that a lot of people, philosophers in the 18th, 19th century were thinking about. In a way, Nietzsche was starting to talk about this as well. Now, obviously, his idea of Übermensch, which has been totally abused by the Nazis, but that's a different story, is part of trying to sorry, chicken in the frog in the throat. His idea of the Übermensch and culture has been abused by people who try to give themselves an excuse on attacking other people. But the idea of being able to stand up for yourself, making up your own mind, not being a puppet, yeah, you know, he wasn't wrong. The thing is, a lot of us, including myself, don't get me wrong, I don't think myself better than the average person. We don't really know how to deal with situations. Now, how can we end a media-induced psychosis? Yeah, I don't know. By proving them wrong time and time again. By speaking out to people like, hey, you know what? I can see you're scared, but there's nothing for you to be scared of. One of the first things in psychology and psychiatry we learn, if someone is in a psychosis, they see dragons, they think the nail in the wall is a microphone. The first thing we learn, do not go along with their psychosis. Do not agree to their psychosis, because it will not help them. In the end, it will not help any of us. So those drive the car, those bringing food. Well, eventually that will be the Übermensch. The thing of the Übermensch is quite interesting, because obviously Hitler had his idea about the Übermensch. A lot of people had their own versions of the Übermensch, not in the last way what we see in a lot of, how do you call it? Well, in comics, there are lots of Übermensches. But the idea of Nietzsche wasn't to say that one group of human was way better than the other one. The idea was that we should all get to the same level. And when we would, that would be a good thing for everyone. I think it's difficult to we need to distance the idea of Übermensch from what Hitler made of this term, because the idea of Übermensch wasn't to say some people were better than other people. The idea was that this was a goal for each and every one of us. Every single one of us should become an Übermensch. Basically, the idea that we would evolve beyond ourselves. Now, this is still a possibility, don't get me wrong, but it's unlikely that this will happen soon. And I know that a lot of people will start talking about, oh, well, he said Ubermensch and therefore he must be Nazi, pro-Hitler, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, the concept of Ubermensch, which indeed was coined by Nietzsche in his book Also sprach Zarathustra. Thus spoke Zarathustra, English. He considered the Ubermensch as the next. Now, obviously, he didn't have any strange superpowers, but he would be beyond us. So basically, the world is now populated by Homo sapiens sapiens, but this would be an evolution of Homo sapiens sapiens, a cultural evolution, not a biological evolution. Dum spiro spero lut. I have no idea what you mean. See, my Latin is really crap. I really should probably learn more of that. But I know myself, so that will probably not happen anytime soon. Unfortunately, if we really want to stop people suffering from mass psychosis, we need to tell people, hey, you know what? You shouldn't be afraid. We need to tell our politicians to stop pushing Project Fear on us every single time they have something they want to make you realize they think is important. A YouTuber, I think he's called Remy, but I don't know the rest of his name. He also makes videos for Reason TV. He made a video quite some time ago, a song. He has a lot of songs. How about politicians telling other people they should vote for their ideas unless you want people to die? So silly this was. When I first saw the video, it was really funny. But look at how we are in our current society. I mean, let me see if I can find it real fast. That would be fun. Okay, here we go. I can't, bloody hell, I can't show it to you guys because the settings of my system are pretty much fucked up now. Did I find it? Yes, I did. So now I'm going to show you guys because I can't play it because you can't hear it right now. But, and I will link it. If you Google, no, not Google, YouTube, Reason TV, Remy, People Will Die. And I'll open it right now because why not? So that I can copy the link and push it right in the chat. Obviously, it will be in the chat before you guys hear about it, but there you go. In this video, politicians are actually, well, not politicians, the song. In this song, he's basically telling us this is what politicians will do. They will tell you, if you don't follow my idea, you want people to die. Funny enough, if you don't want a mask on your face, it's because you want people to die. If you do not get vaccinated, you want people to die. If you do get vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask and you still have to distance because otherwise you want people to die. This is Project Fear. You're being feared into being compliant. And it won't be easy for people to stop this. It won't be easy at all. But in the end, we need to make our voices heard. If you still believe that a democracy is anything we need to make our voices heard. We need to speak out against the lies that are being pushed upon us. Now, sorry, mass psychosis is a problem. It really is. Just like any authoritarian country out there, you have to believe what you're being sold as the truth. If you do not, you are a problem. And look at, for example, people disagreeing with the BLM lies. Well, if you don't believe it, you must be a racist. If you then point out that the leaders of that movement are basically your standard socialists, they want you to pay, but they will use your money to buy luxury for them, then no, you don't understand. Why are people not wearing a mask a danger to those wearing one? If masks work, then yeah, a mask should protect both. This is true, but the thing is, masks don't work, and they can't work. And at the same time that they tell you that it works, they know it doesn't. But if a lot of people don't wear a mask and people do not get sick more often, they realize masks don't work. It's all a way to control people. It's Project Fear. Hi there, Lady Justice. People will die regardless of what I do, so I may as well do whatever the fuck I want. I totally agree. Now, obviously, if you go out to kill people, then I do not agree. But it's not your inaction that kills people. So in this I agree. If you drive your car and you basically drive over the sidewalk and run into a lot of people, then yeah, people will die. Obviously, so don't do that. But at the same time, if you're driving on the highway and you adhere the local rules and whatnot, then yeah, do whatever you want to do, as long as what you do is in line with, well, actually, how do you call it? The do no harm principle. It's one of the things real anarchy is based on. It's also a difficult way of trying to do something simple, but that's a different story. If we want to help people break out of this mass psychosis, something we are all in, we need to help people recognize that we're in a mass psychosis. Indeed, Lady Justice, within reason. I know they can't work, it's the same oxymoron. Why are non-vaccinated a danger to the vaccinated ones if the vaccine does protect as they tell us? It's the same thing. It's perpetuating a lie. I mean, even if you look at the numbers, they will tell you that if you're vaccinated, you have a 90% chance of not becoming sick. And it lowers your chances of actually dying. Okay, but if you're not getting vaccinated, you have a 90% chance of not getting sick. So, yeah, the dying thing I can't really talk about because I have no idea. Yeah, if we look at the death toll, oh, come on. Maybe I should show you. I did talk about it a moment ago. Let's see if I can find it. I'm going to show you the graphics on Corona. Transition. And I have to move you a little bit. Opa, there you go. If we look at the numbers of people dying, now this is in the Netherlands. This area at the beginning is when COVID became new in the Netherlands. Now there was a period before there, but they weren't officially registered as Corona back then. If we look at the top, and it starts breaking down, and if we look at halfway April, the numbers going down a lot, and in May the numbers are really low. Now people will say that's because of the Corona measurements taken by governments, but that's not true, because the corona measurements started somewhere early in, well, halfway March. So if this is true, then you should have seen it within 2 weeks, but you didn't. And all of a sudden, people kept doing what they did, but the COVID cases dwindled. These are the numbers of people that died. And if we look at between May and June, this is the last few people. Then there's a few months with nearly no one dying, and then we have a second wave and a third wave close to each other. And what do we see now? It's already dwindling again. And they will claim that this is because of the vaccinations. It's not. The main reason why it's dwindling, here we have a really high spike, but why do we have a really high spike? A lot of old people died. Here we have a smaller spike, because most of the weak people died here. And indeed, flu season is over in May. The mask is a sign of acceptance to the narrative, absolutely, Dimitri. And at the same time, this is also why people tend to believe each other. This is why people like me, I mean, for me, it's absolutely a danger to wear the mask. Now, it might sound hyperbolic, but trust me, for me, it's a danger to wear the mask. There are more people like me that can't, for medical reasons, wear the mask. But a lot of these people still do, because they don't want to be ostracized in society. Personally, I would say wear the bloody mask if you want to, but don't do it because you don't want to be ostracized. Because not being liked by your neighbors, yeah, that's bad, but being dead is probably somewhat a little bit worse. I have a convincing argument. Well, thank you very much, Dimitri. I kind of try to be accurate. Now here we see people being hospitalized with corona. And we see that this is roughly the same. But we don't know why it's roughly the same. It doesn't really make sense that it's roughly the same. But then again, from May on, flu season is over. And indeed, Lady Justice, corona and rhinoviruses are spreading no matter what we do. The same is true for flu viruses. Now, I'm not really sure, but I have to do a little bit more research into this. But in Europe, we've known coronaviruses at least since the 1950s. They've been here longer, but we know them since the 50s. And somehow we're being told that this is new. There's a reason that sometimes certain flu seasons are worse than others. Because the vaccine we've got didn't work about the flu we got. But I think, and I might be wrong, but I am going to look into this, during flu season, you can either have a flu virus, a rhinovirus, or a coronavirus. And a few years ago, all three of these were considered flu season. But now, corona is considered flu season and nothing else is. I'm not sure that this is true. I have to do more research into this. But this is very much how it seems to me. And, well, lady, I haven't worn a mask at all. This is, funny enough, also a reason why I still haven't gone to the physiotherapist to help me with my, well, and I haven't been to the, how do you call that thing? It's a specific specialist doctor. No, I can't find the English word for it, but I haven't seen any of the specialists. I mean, I have MS. I should see my doctor, but I haven't. And indeed, Morris, this is something that we see in the Netherlands a lot, but I'm pretty sure this is everywhere in the world where people are forced to wear the mask. They wear the mask not because they want to, but because they are forced to. But indeed, then they wear it under their nose because then it doesn't inhibit their breathing. And I'm also sure that the flu viruses aren't gone, but most people that have been told that they have COVID are told based on the complaints, not based on the antibodies in their blood. And indeed, Richard Bayer, face shields are not acceptable. I made a video a few months ago where I put a handkerchief in front of my face, a cheap face shield where one side was closed and the other three are open, and a slightly more expensive face shield where it's all open except for the face shield, and with all three of them I have a problem. Obviously, the last one, the face shield where it's mostly open on all four sides, I have not as much of a problem as I have with the handkerchief, but I still have a problem with all three of them. My oxygen saturation in my blood drops to 94 within minutes. And 94 is a problem. If you have a continuous 94, you're going to be hospitalized. Unless, of course, you know why, because then you can take away the source of reaching 94 saturation. Revalidation, Dr. Michael Keller. Because of my MS, I also have to be checked because I have a problem walking and all that shit. But a lot of these things, a lot of treatments have been stopped. Not just for me, for a lot of people. You're not able to go to a lot of doctors because hospitals have it so busy with corona patients, so very, very busy with learning themselves TikTok routine dances, that they don't have time for people who suffer anything but corona. Well, that's not fair, that's not true. They still see certain people. Yeah, and if you believe that, you're willing to believe that I have a bridge to sell you. You might be interested. I'm not quite sure what color you want it to be, so let me know what color. If you pay me, I will make sure that the bridge will be colored in your preferred color. We are being lied to so much, and people believe this because they want to believe that this is real. Now, there are lots of reasons why we are like this. In the past, I've talked about the Stanford experiment or the Milgram experiment, where people will listen to authorities, where they will do what the authorities tell them what is right. This is inherently part of the problem. But at a certain point in time, people don't really need to listen to the ones that are above them, so to speak. They will push the narrative themselves. It's kind of funny. I'm wearing a badge that says you're exempt. I have a pass that says I'm exempt. But yeah, no, I made an image in November in the Netherlands. I made an image on how this pass is basically the new Star of David that people were wearing during the Second World War to make sure that people realize that they are of a certain group. Not something I'm in favor of, by the way, but yeah. And hospitals are indeed being paid handsomely for focusing solely on the goof. It's patients that suffer, people like me. And MS isn't deadly, thank God. But if we look at how many people have died of heart diseases, preventable deaths, it's Yeah, it's quite scary. And people still believe that this is a good thing to do because it fits within their psychosis. There is another thing. You are arguing there is going to be a witch hunt and we are dressed like witches. Are we in danger? Actually, there is already a witch hunt and we are in danger. But it's not a witch hunt against the witches. It's a dissident hunt. If you disagree with the narrative, you will be silenced socially as much as they can. There are doctors, professionals that are being silenced on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter because they do not follow the narrative. A narrative that now the World Health Organization is actually pushing as well. The World Health Organization has finally come to its senses and said, okay, it only has an infection fatality rate of 0.15%. Something that a lot of doctors and virologists basically knew. They've now come out to say, well, hydrochloroquine can indeed help. Ivermectin can indeed help. Vitamin D and zinc can indeed help. But you're not allowed to say that because you have to get the vaccine. Which, funny enough, is still no protection because if you've been vaccinated, you still have to keep your social distance. I'm not sure if an aspirin can help against COVID, by the way. Can you talk to clients and co-workers at work what you really think? In all fairness, Morris, in my current job, I can't either. There are some colleagues who are willing to listen, but most of them are so embedded with the doctrine, are so embedded in their psychosis. I've had colleagues say, literally say, if I can prove it wrong based on the numbers of RIVM, they still wouldn't believe me. As if the RIVM numbers will be manipulated by me, even though I can just give them the URL and they can look at it on the website themselves. They won't, because it challenges their doctrine. It's kind of like when someone is in a psychosis and they believe that there's a dragon following them. You cannot convince them that there is not a dragon following them. But they'll try to convince you. Yeah, whether it's a genetic therapy or not, I don't know enough about it. I do know that I won't do it though. Well, I've been told that paracetamol has a negative effect on the body when it comes to COVID. Now, usually when people have the flu, they will tell you in the Netherlands, take a paracetamol. But paracetamol may actually make the sickness worse. I have to look into that one, because that was interesting. And I'm not sure if it helps against the thrombosis of the vaccine, because what I've been told is that the thrombosis caused by the vaccine is different than normal thrombosis. But yeah, that's something I don't know enough about. I have to admit. I know in the Netherlands, our Minister of Health basically said that the vaccine is more dangerous for people under 30 than the virus itself, which is statistically true. But I think it's also a very stupid thing to say when you want people to vaccinate themselves, but at the same time, well, we don't have enough vaccines to vaccinate everyone, so people under 30 don't really have to get vaccinated because, let's be honest, the vaccine is more dangerous than the disease. Hi there, William. It's pretty stupid how the world goes, because they say these things and no one picks up on it because it doesn't fit their psychosis. So I can show people when the minister says this and they were like, yeah, but he probably meant something else. Well, yeah, maybe. This is what he said though. I didn't know that there, Ludicrous. I didn't know pregnant women shouldn't use aspirins. Learn something new. Thank you, mate. The heartworm medicine for dogs is apparently effective against the virus. Well, Richard, that's new to me. But I have no idea what that medicine is. I mean, could it work? Maybe. I mean, a virus isn't a parasite, but who knows? I didn't hear that one. If you have a link to that one, I would love to see it. But it's something to look up. But we've been talking about the COVID scare, the COVID psychosis. But how many people do you know out there that will tell you that we are living in a period of time when the world is warming and it's all because of CO2? Reality shows that this is not true, and still people tell that story. Not too long ago, I saw an article talking to whomever read the article, obviously, that we've slightly gone into a cooling period. One reason because the sun is going into a different cycle. I forgot the names of those things. But another reason was because there was so much restricting in travel. People were driving less, therefore there was less CO2 in the atmosphere, therefore there was less fine dust in the atmosphere from cars, that this caused the world to warm. So it's warming because there is so much trash in the air. No. The environment is warming because there's less trash in the air. Let's see if I can find that one back. That would be interesting. Yeah, there we have it. Let me see if I can share it with the good people of the interwebs. There we go. They've actually studied and they've seen that because the air is cleaner, because of the lockdowns and whatnot, the planet probably warmed further. This goes against the warming of the earth because of our work. No, because we've so much trash in the air. Oh, so much cars driving, so much blah, 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 blah. Wait a second. But if we drive less, there is less CO2 in the atmosphere, and still the temperatures are going up. It's not a huge difference, but the idea that it's man-made is interesting, but it seems that everything we do to stop it has the opposite effect. But it doesn't fit within the psychosis. Not driving a car, good. Therefore, not driving a car, less warming. Even though reality shows probably more warming. Now, it could be coincidental that the warming of the Earth has gone up a little higher. It might be completely coincidental. But if the story is that CO2 caused global warming, you'd think it would be cooling down, not getting warmer. A minister said this. Yes, a minister said this, Michael. I will have to see if I can find that one, but it's Dutch, so I'm going to have to try and... The willow bark has been used for centuries as a natural pain reliever. It contains salicin, which was later synthesized an active ingredient in aspirin. This is actually true. The funny thing is, I have willow branches in the house for my rabbits, because when they show they don't feel so well, we give them a few branches and it will actually make them feel better. So, indeed, Dimitri, you're very correct on that one. Garlic is also good for a lot of things, though a lot of herbs and whatnot are good for things, let's be honest. It's amazing though, because this is another example of people following the psychosis. It's the psychosis in this case being that humans are responsible for yada 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 blah blah blah, and the only way to stop this is by doing yada 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 blah blah blah, even though everything proves that this is not true. This is basically how do you call that guy, Methusium, who was really scared of people not being able to feed themselves, and therefore we had to lower the population, because all of these people, whether they do it from a socialistic point of view or whatever, all of them want us to lower the population, because there's so many people in the world. It's really a scary thing, even though there is no reason to believe that this is true. And we keep pushing narratives like this. It's not putting the bodies on drugs, it's food for them as well. Come on. It's branches of the willow tree. They eat them. In the wild, they would eat them as well. And I am going to defer to Ludacris's, expertise in this one, because, well, he knows more about that stuff than me. I'm not quite sure what else it did. I've also been told that it relieved pain in the rabbits, but I don't know if a rabbit has fever either, so it could have been that. Rabbits obviously can have a fever, don't get me wrong, I know, but I don't temp my rabbits, because it's not an easy thing to do. Anyway, I don't think we want to reduce population, Michael Keller, but showing them all a picture of you, isn't that just beyond cruel? I don't know. That's just me being silly. We got more than enough food to feed the entire planet 3 times, to be honest, Lady Justice. But yeah, you're completely correct. It's bullshit. We've constantly being told lies. In the Netherlands, for example, they want to take away farmland so that they can build houses on it, which maybe could be considered logical. I disagree with it, but there are people who will. And then people will say, yeah, but why the hell do we need so much farmers in the Netherlands? We are the third biggest exporter of food in the world. So if we're not doing that, that would be a good thing. And I'm like, I'm not really sure, but people keep claiming how there's not enough food to feed the world, which there is, to be honest. And we are one of the major exporters. If we then limit our food production, will that then not cause more people starving? Well, yeah, but that's not our problem. Wait a second. We're doing something to help these people. You don't want us to help these people, but you want us to give them our money to help them. So how come we not give our food? Because you can't eat money. And I don't know if it would work, Michael. Pollution creates a shadow on the oceans, and by the way caused the famine in the Sahel drought. I'm sorry, I'm not reading that right. Pollution creates a shadow on the oceans, and by the way caused the famine in the Sahel drought and famine. I'm sorry, Dimitri, I have a little bit of a problem understanding that sentence. But it is true that pollutions did create a shadow. This is something I mentioned some time ago now, that in the beginning of the 20th century, we saw a rise in global temperature, and that rise was considered to come because we cleaned up our atmosphere as much as we did by taking away the pollution. More warmth reached the earth. warmth in itself isn't always a good or a bad thing, but it does have an influence. We kind of don't want to block too much of the sun rays though, because UVBC is probably one of the strongest fighters against viruses. This is why these viruses happen on a certain scale. Now, in places like the Netherlands, during the month of May, sunlight becomes slightly stronger, but the months before that, the strength of the sun in the Netherlands is absolute crap. It'd probably be worse in countries like Germany or Poland, because they are even further from the equator than we are. And in the Netherlands, the government wants to take away farmland from farmers to build houses, William. He wants to put some stuff in the atmosphere to block sunlight. One can say everything is about balance. No, you're absolutely correct, William. Everything is about balance. The nuance of the world is totally lost on those who want to rule and destroy us. It's double, and I mean, we started with mass psychosis in COVID, mass psychosis in the environmental crap, mass psychosis in why it's a better idea to drive electric, even though it's really not. But everything is about a balance, and that balance is being threatened. And people are made to believe lies. And once people start believing it, it's very difficult to prove them wrong. If you believe a yellow dragon is chasing you, and you're scared of that yellow dragon, people aren't going to be easily able to convince you that there is no yellow dragon. This is also what Yuri Bezmenov said. You can tell people what you want, but it's going to be difficult for them to believe that black is indeed black and white is indeed white if they started believing that black is white and white is black. Anyway, I would like to thank you all for joining me once again, and thank you for your input. I hope next time to have my sound system set up normal again. Thank you, Windows, for fucking that up.